I'm going to talk today about Alzheimer's disease, which, as we know, is a form of dementia. I'll be talking about the symptoms, I'll be talking about how it's a significant and growing worldwide health problem, and I'll be asking about possible cures or treatments. So I'm going to start now. Alzheimer's disease is a form of dementia. It was discovered more or less 100 years ago by a German psychiatrist by the name of Louis Alzheimer, hence the name of the disease. People who suffer from Alzheimer's experience a variety of symptoms: confusion, memory loss, and also mood swings. People who previously were quite placid and good-natured can suddenly change and become aggressive and even violent. In the decade before they die, as their brain functions deteriorate further, so sufferers may also lose other bodily functions and may require daily support and care. Now, that care is often provided by a family member, perhaps a spouse or a child, who may have to give up work to Alzheimer patient. Sometimes carers themselves are elderly. They have their own health problems, their own medical conditions to contend with, and so they may have to pay for outside help, people to come in and look after the Alzheimer sufferer in the family. Very often they have to pay for that out of a relatively limited budget. Estimates put the number of people suffering worldwide from Alzheimer's at about 40 million. And that figure is set to rise. In fact, some people say perhaps increase threefold by mid-century. The total cost currently of treating and caring for Alzheimer's sufferers worldwide is about $600 billion. But of course, as the number of sufferers increases, so the costs of care and treatment will soar as well. And this means that Alzheimer's today has become a major health challenge around the world. It's a challenge for governments, it's a challenge for the medical profession, it's a challenge also for the pharmaceutical companies who have been trying for years to come up with a cure for the disease, or at least a form of treatment which can slow the progress of the disease so that sufferers can enjoy a better quality of life. I want to say something briefly about a diagnosis of Alzheimer's before concluding with a few words about possible treatment. One of the problems with Alzheimer's is the difficulty in diagnosing the disease. Some experts suggest, in fact, that 2/3 of sufferers worldwide have not yet been identified. And by the time the symptoms that I was referring to earlier, the memory loss, etc., become apparent, that may be 15 years after the onset of the disease, it's too late to do anything about it. What about treatment for Alzheimer's? Is there going to be an Alzheimer's drug? Well, there are some drugs currently available, but the best of those will only slow mental decline for perhaps a few months at best. Many drugs that have been undergoing clinical trials in the big pharmaceutical companies have ended up failing, often in the final stage trials. And this is a very costly process. Perhaps as much as $400 million of research and development money can go into researching and developing a new drug, which then fails. That sum of money could have been used to pay for example, 3 life-saving cancer therapies. And that explains why many of the big pharmaceutical companies have now stepped back from Alzheimer's research. But there is one that is continuing. That is Eli Lilly in the States. They recently offered some hopeful news for Alzheimer's sufferers and their carers. They recently completed a large-scale trial of an anti-Alzheimer's drug. I'll spare you the name. I can't pronounce it, actually. And they say that the results are promising. The drug in question was seen to affect a 34% slowing of the rate of mental decline in people suffering from mild or early stage Alzheimer's, suggesting that it could be effective if it is given before the disease becomes too entrenched. But of course, there's a catch-22 there. As I said earlier, Alzheimer's is difficult to diagnose. Anyway, Eli Lilly is staying with the Alzheimer's drug research. Obviously, they know that the potential market is huge, but a former executive was quoted recently as saying that they're staying with it also because of the vast amount of human suffering involved in Alzheimer's, and they say they just cannot turn their back on that. Thank you.